Christian, give him a big hand, yay! Come on, party time! Woo! Oh, sugar pie, honey bunch, you know that I love you. I can't help myself, I love you and nobody else. In and out of my life, you come and you go. Leave just your picture behind. I've kissed it 1,000 times. I'll be there with a love that will comfort you. I'll be there with a love that will see you through. Now if you feel lost and about to give up because your best just ain't good enough, and you feel the world has gone cold, to drift out on your own, and you need a hand to hold, darling. Come on, girl, reach out for me, reach out for me. Just look over your shoulder. I'll be there with a love that will comfort you. And I'll be there with a love that will see you through. And let's go!
Christian, the artist formerly known as Chris McClure, is one of Scotland's great showbiz survivor stories. For 60 years, the Ibrox-born singer has entertained audiences from village halls to the Royal Albert Hall. It all began at the age of 19, when Chris joined the Fireflies and became their front man. Chris McClure and the Fireflies were a popular 60s Glasgow-based group who became known for their tight sound and vocal harmonies, specializing in Tamla Motown and soul music. They played throughout Scotland, but were the resident band at the Flamingo and also the Picasso Club in Buchanan Street, Glasgow. And thanks to their fabulous live performances, their singles on the Polydor label, including The Answer to Everything and I'm Just a Country Boy, both proved massively popular north of the border. When the group featured in the STV pop program called Stramash, 1971, they changed their name to the Chris McClure Section. The band continued to enjoy popularity in Scotland, but as disco became popular, live bands were less in demand. This marked the start of Chris's solo career. He changed his stage name to Christian and played virtually every venue in Scotland, including a number of 1960s and 70s revival shows at some of Scotland's most renowned theatres. Chris's mum, Leonora, who was a dancer and was one of the Morganettes at the Pavilion Theatre, had Chris at the age of 18. Chris never knew much about his father, an American entertainer called Chris Gill, who would come over here and play the lead in shows like Bye Bye Birdie. Leonora would go on to have a pivotal role in young Chris's life, as she taught the young Chris how to dance, something he would take into his act and separate him from other performers at the time, and make him the performer we all know and love today. Another talent and love for the young Chris was football, where he played for his Bella Houston school team and his local boys' brigade as a goalkeeper. Although supporting Glasgow Rangers as a boy, Chris would go on to be invited into the board of directors at Motherwell FC, a position he was very proud of. Chris used to laugh at how ironic it was that one of his first gigs he played with the Fireflies was in a pub called The Black Man. Here he would earn £2 a night doing covers of The Drifters and Buddy Holly, with the odd impersonations of people like Johnny Mathis. During this period, and in order to survive the small fees paid to bands, Chris worked as a clerk at the William Brock Flour Mill in York Street, sometimes helping load the vans when work in the office was quiet. Even though Chris was considered non-white by most people, he has gladly stated that racism was never a problem in his life, because he was surrounded by too many people willing to protect him if any such event would occur. Around this time, Chris did the famous television show Opportunity Knocks, which was run and hosted by Huey Green. Chris stated that Huey was quite brutal with some of the acts, and indeed he wouldn't let Chris sing an up-tempo song, which would have benefited his multi-talented vocal and dancing skills. The result, Chris came second. In 1975, Chris toured the country with his good friend Billy Connolly, which ended with them both doing the London Palladium together. This tour, combined with the release of his debut album as Christian, called The First Christian by Polydor in 1976, meant that he became a well-known and liked household name. Another memorable moment for Chris was when he also appeared on the same bill as the Jacksons and Dolly Parton at the Queen's Jubilee show at the King's Theatre in 1978, which he states here in a radio interview with his friend Colin McGregor.
Tell us about what's been the highlight of your career?
Well, I've had many highlights, Colin. Obviously, one of the biggest was doing the Scottish Royal Variety performance in the King's Theatre in Glasgow before Her Majesty the Queen for her 25th anniversary, becoming Queen. And on that particular show, we had the Jackson 5, would you believe, with Michael.
With Michael?
With Michael, yep. I actually met them, and he was just a quiet wee boy. He just sat down. The rest of them did all the talking, and Michael just sat down. And then when he went onto stage, it changed. Wallop, and there he was, and you went, oh, come on. We all sat in the stalls and watched them rehearsing, and we were completely blown away.
Yeah.
At that time, there were no radio mics. It was trail mics he was using. And he was doing all these spins. And he never ever get caught up in his mic. And we thought, wait a minute, how could this guy do this? He was just unbelievable.
And who else was on the bill?
Dolly Parton.
Oh, gee.
Dolly Parton, she was really tiny.
Yeah.
Talk to her, it was great.
In what way tiny? Height-wise, obviously.
Height-wise, oh come on, yes. As high as she was broad. Well, she was lovely.
Christian has released 4 singles and 6 albums, starred in an amazing 22 pantomimes, and has even been the support act to his all-time favourite group, The Drifters, in the Apollo Glasgow in 1976. In fact, he was the last act ever to perform at the world-famous Glasgow Apollo in 1978. Having already been a hit on a BBC TV show in the late 60s, Chris's next TV performance was in the 70s, when STV did a one-off special around Chris, which then went on to run for 8 weeks, full of music, dancing, and even comic sketches, solidifying his status as a bona fide all-round entertainer. The 80s brought a huge change in the music scene, so Christian moved into the social clubs. It was then that his uncle Bruce McClure, the famous choreographer, talked him into appearing in panto. During the run of Chris's first panto, Sinbad, he got a chance to appear with the Osmonds at the Albert Hall in 1979. Although this was something of another pinnacle in his career, Chris spent much of the rest of the subsequent decades in the social clubs and theatres of the west of Scotland, starring in shows like Please Stay and Jukebox Memories at the Pavilion, followed much later in the early 2000s in shows at the Motherwell Civic Theatre called The Wise Guys and Mistletoe and The Divines. To the joy of his older fans who remembered the early days, the original lineup of the Chris McClure section reformed briefly in 2006. This reunion lasted until 2012, when Chris returned to his now well-recognized stage name of Christian. Here is a little something not everyone will know. Frank Lynch, Chris's manager at the time, suggested that he entertain the fans at a Celtic Rangers Skull Cup final at Hampton in 1986 by running a race against the Powder Hall champion Roy Heron. Chris was given a 13-yard start, and incredibly, Chris won the race by inches. Chris was a man of great humility. One day he could be headlining a full production in front of 1,500 people. The next day, he would be performing at a local care home. That was Christian, always there for the fans and ready to entertain with a smile. Whether you called him Chris or Christian, he'll always be known as a true Scottish showbiz legend and gentleman, gone but never forgotten. What you have just watched and listened to is just a short, condensed timeline of Chris's career, taken from various sources where some dates, etc. may vary, and to which so much more could be added. Let me now leave you with a fantastic anecdote from the great man himself, regarding his first ever single release. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy.
Right. So we used to do the show, and it used to go out at 6:30 on a Monday night, live. We didn't have video recorders back then. Today have it live. So if you made a mistake, tough luck, it went. Now, we were scheduled to do 13 programs, one a week. And we'd done, I think it was about 6. And it was a Monday afternoon. I can always remember this very, very well. We're down on the studio floor rehearsing for the evening show, right? Now, everything had stopped. There was a wee lull, and they were changing cameras and all this kind of stuff. And the director's in his box, away up in the gallery somewhere. You couldn't see. It was on darkness. All of a sudden, I hear this voice shouting, "Chris, come up here. Telephone call from London." Now, see, back then, I didn't know anybody for London. So I'm up there like a shot. Now, I have another request. See, when I tell you who was on the phone, going to no laugh. Because I didn't know anything about this. The name belonged to none other than Jonathan King. No! Wait, hang on. Innocent till proved guilty. See, back then, Jonathan was still in the closet and somebody else had a key in their pocket. And I'd just like to let all you nice Muirkirk people know that I'm not like that. That's my boyfriend. And I did not know how to talk to folk. I was an idiot. I picks up the phone and goes, "Aye, what is it?" He says, "Well, I've been watching the TV. I like your voice. I've got a song I'd like you to record." I went, "You beauty." He says, "So what I'm going to do is send you up the words and music. When you finish your TV shows, come down to London, we'll book a studio, and this is what did it. We will have a 40-piece orchestra." Oh. The wee boy from the Ibrox has died and gone to heaven. Oh. So then, still no one meant to shut up and just let him go on with it. I says, "Brilliant. What's the song all about?" And he replied, "It's Swan Lake." And I've got my hand over the mic. That's what I said. "Oh, no." He goes, No. Don't worry. This is the most recognizable piece of music from Swan Lake. Everybody and their granny could sing this, whistle it, or hum it. I've written words especially for it. I think your voice would be really suited to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, here and now before your very eyes is a tiny swatch of my first single called The Dying. That's another lovely word, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, swatch. 1, 2, 3. My first single, The Dying Swan. Don't laugh. Wait till I finish, then you can laugh. This is Culture. Josie, Culture. Oh, I certainly did, Francie. The Dying Swan. In some deserted bed of leaves, there lies a swan about to die. And in her dream, she can see herself alive and shining brilliant in the sky. She glides and turns on the icy lake, while the silver moon whitens on the melting snow. She dreams about the cool wind that blew and the smell of pine trees that drifted down to the sapphire lake below. That's it. The story's not finished. See, 4 months before they released a single, I don't believe I did this. I went into the record company doing in London, Polydor as it was called then. I says, "Guys, I'm thrilled about the single. First single, who wouldn't be over the moon? I certainly am. But there's only one wee problem. I don't like the title. I want to change it." And you could see this horrified looks in their faces. They went, "Change it? To what?" And I replied, "The Deed Duck." As I said before, I might be daft, but I'm no stupid. This wasn't going to sell a light, nothing out the window. How many did it sell? Get this. 750. Oh! And folks, I've got 740 in my garage at home. Thank you.